Now, the countdown to December 7 is on, and the general elections is about you, the people, and the real issues. The Imani Center for Policy and Education and your election headquarters brings to you the minority political parties and independent candidates election debate. Today, we begin the build-up with a conversation with the head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, who has joined us in studio to give us an idea of what to expect. Evans, welcome.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Why the minority political parties and independent presidential candidates debate?
Because of diversity. I mean, in any elections, there should be multiplicity of voices so the electorate can make a decision. We concede that in the countries such as ours, in the Fourth Republican history, political history and elections history, the two main political parties, NDC and NPP, have won on the elections, right? However, over the years, there's been a conversation about a third force. But going into an elections, definitely, any elections, and as we progress since 1992, you've seen that there's a gradual push towards an issues-based election. It used to be all about insults and personality and ethnicity, etc. Gradually, through the efforts of Imani, election headquarters, and others, it's constantly and gradually moving towards issues. And in these elections, it is clear that if you leave the debate with the two main political parties, you are shortchanging yourself in terms of hearing what alternatives are there to some of the key issues that affect all of us. Okay. And this debate really is to open up that space so that everybody else independents and the minority political parties who will want to contest elections will have an avenue to also chip in terms of what they bring to the table in ideas, just to enrich the conversation going into an election.
Now, you are head of political desk. You've been doing this for decades at least, and we have observed in the country that the influence of the third force is actually going down over the years. So that if you're going to use 2000 as a benchmark, for instance, we had CPP members of parliament, we had PNC members of parliament, we had some serve as ministers of state. Now this parliament is totally NDC and MPP. So what's happening to these, and can we realistically see a third force make a difference in our body politic?
You have to go to the why. Why are they winning in influence? One of the biggest reasons why they are winning influence is because we have constricted that space for them to articulate their views and issues and policies to the electorate. When I say we, I'm talking about civil society, I'm talking about media, because of course, through those channels, they get to hear what they represent. As a result of which, we've given, of course, a floodgate to the two main political parties to pull themselves out there. So we should not be surprised that that is happening. Of course, you cannot say that is 100% the reason, because a part of it has also been the doing of the minor political parties themselves. But be that as it may, once they put up a candidate, once they put up a manifesto, and they do, we limit the space. And so the electorate don't get to hear the other alternatives. There's a huge chunk of people who in 2016 did not vote for either John Mahama or Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, but didn't vote at all, right? I mean, and I'm wondering if we give enough space to the other political parties, other than the NDC and the MPP and the independent candidates, to really get a say in elections. Will that influence that, group of constituents in deciding, okay, if I don't like the NDC and I don't like the MPP, which other group of parties or individuals in the independent candidate best represents what I believe, and maybe we'll take that vote.
Interesting thoughts there, Evan. So I guess this is a prelude to what we'll be discussing at that independent candidates and minority political parties election
So
debate.
there are two separate debates that we are organizing, and this is an Imani Center for Policy and Education initiative, and we are partnering them to execute it. And so we have two separate debates that we're anticipating. The first is next week, Thursday, in the evening of Thursday, which is going to be live on JoyNews and radio. That is going to be one for the independent candidates alone. And then we have a second later down the line, before the elections definitely, for the minority political parties. We're calling it minor political parties, but of course that has issues there. So we call it minority political parties, just so to be politically correct with it. That will be a later one. If the NDC and MPP decide to change their mind and join, we can have a third one for them, just the two of them as well. I mean, that would be beautiful. But for now, we are having the two in partnership with the money from the UPSA auditorium.
Social distancing protocols fully applied.
All observed. And I'm explaining to there's some very interesting candidates, by the way, very interesting. Do you remember the guy who, caused the stir when the government held this diaspora meeting and challenged the authorities?
You also did Ghana Connect, I remember
a few times, yes. He's running as an independent candidate now.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yes, they call him Kofi Ghana, but he's put up he has a very sophisticated website, and he's putting his use out there. Last week, Marek Gunn launched his manifesto as well. Very well done in terms of the tactics and the way he did it on social media. It was on a dome as well. I have a copy of that manifesto, very thorough, and that's the point about opening up the space. Because you're listening to it but I haven't heard this from NDC or MPP before, so this is interesting. But that's the thing about the debate. You get to interrogate it a bit more, and people get to know what else is there.
Evans, thank you so much. Thank you so much for briefing us on this. So it begins next week, Thursday.